Men spend their entire lives believing they must be more agreeable to get what they want from a woman. But being agreeable was never the problem. The problem is what happens inside you the moment you need something. Your body contracts. Your voice loses firmness. Your eyes reveal anxiety. You give away power without noticing. The trick is not to manipulate women. The trick is to control the psychological stimulus that activates respect, attention, and cooperation in them. Whoever understands this stops being the one who begs and becomes the one who directs. There's a recurring conflict in the modern man. He acts well, speaks well, behaves well. But when it's time to ask, he begs. It's subtle, but it destroys everything. His breathing speeds up, his face gets tense. His sentence comes out with invisible justifications. And it's in that exact moment that your value collapses. She notices the hesitation before you finish the sentence. For you, it's just a detail. For her, it's a sign of disadvantage, of neediness, of insecurity, revealed behind a polite tone. Communication breaks. Interest drops. Respect fades. You didn't lose because you asked wrong. You lost because you asked without grounding. The hidden emotional error lies in the intention with which you ask. You ask wanting to please. You ask trying to be accepted. You ask trying to show that you're kind, deserving, special. But this destroys the integrity of the request. When you try to be seen as good, you place yourself below. When you try to be approved, you lose direction. A woman does not respond to the request. She responds to the emotional position from which the request came. And when that position comes from neediness, the effect is always the same: loss of power. Robert Cialdini describes a principle that defines this entire game: consistency and silent authority. Human beings, especially in socially sensitive contexts, respond more to the alignment between action and presence than to words themselves. Women sense when a man is asking for something because he wants to please. They sense when he asks because he knows what he's doing. They follow the man who demonstrates internal firmness, not the one who tries to compensate for insecurity with excessive politeness. Silent authority is not shouting. It is not wavering. This perception is not abstract. In 2022, researchers at the University of Virginia demonstrated that women identify male microtensions, such as hesitation in the voice, rhythm oscillation, and micro-expressions of doubt, as immediate signs of low social value. It is unconscious, fast, and completely automatic. Her body reads the man's body long before it processes the logic of the conversation. That's why so many men do everything right, but lose strength the moment they need something. The promise of this video is to reveal exactly the invisible mechanism that makes her trust, follow, cooperate, and even adjust her own rhythm to yours. It has nothing to do with superficial tricks or magic lines. It has to do with direction. It has to do with presence. It has to do with the internal state you carry when you enter an interaction. You always thought you needed to be nicer. In reality, you needed to be more inevitable. Imagine the difference between two men. One asks as if hoping for permission. The other asks as someone who knows what he wants and knows where he's going. The first shrinks his own value. The second expands the space around him. A woman feels this immediately. This video will show you how to replace anxiety with grounding, how to take weight off the words and put weight into presence, how to turn your communication into a force that leads rather than begs. From this point forward, each chapter will dissect a component of this mechanism. What destroys your presence, what strengthens your direction, and what makes a woman not only accept but desire to follow your leadership. You're going to understand what no one ever explained. It's not she who decides whether she will cooperate with you. It is your emotional center that activates or deactivates her response. And controlling this is what separates an ordinary man from a man who gets what he wants. Always. The silent mistake that makes you lose everything before you start. There's a type of behavior that corrodes masculine presence before the interaction even begins. And it is so automatic that many men live inside it without noticing. It is the addiction to validate before asking. The mind starts to question, will she like it? Am I bothering her? Am I being inconvenient? This internal dialogue creates micro-tensions that leak through the body. The gaze hesitates. The breathing shortens. The sentence comes out with unnecessary explanations. And when that happens, the female unconscious interprets it all as a precise signal: insecurity. Attraction doesn't disappear because of what you say, but because of the way your body reveals that you're placing yourself beneath her. The practice is clear. Observe your first bodily reaction before speaking. If your chest closes, if your voice rises half a tone, if your rhythm accelerates, you've already lost a conversation before the first verb. Controlling this is regaining your presence. There's also a biological foundation that explains a sudden disinterest so many men fail to understand. The female brain processes social signals with much more sensitivity than the male brain, especially when there is value asymmetry in the interaction. She's not looking for perfection. She's looking for emotional stability. Women are trained by evolution to detect within seconds who dominates their own internal environment. An emotionally disorganized man, even if intelligent and well-intentioned, triggers warning signals. That is why correct modulation of voice, speaking tempo, and micro-expressions is so crucial. When you speak with stable rhythm, keep your face relaxed, and use pauses naturally, her brain reads this as safety. And safety is a prerequisite for interest. It is not hard to notice what happens to men who rush to create closeness. They believe that the faster they show themselves accessible, the faster they will be accepted. But instant accessibility destroys tension. And without tension, there is no attraction. Real connection is born when there is rhythm, when there is pause, when there is space for her to take a step while you take another. Closeness does not create connection. Rhythm creates connection. The application is simple and powerful. The one-step pause, one-step method. Move forward with a clear line. Make a pause for her to breathe in the information. Then move forward again. This creates balance where she feels that the dynamic is being led by you, not by impulse. The science confirms this mechanism precisely. In 2019, researchers at Columbia University discovered that women classify men with lower emotional reactivity as significantly more attractive and trustworthy in brief interactions. What destroys interest is not lack of conversation, not lack of charisma, not lack of beauty. It is reactivity. It is the rush to respond. It is poorly calibrated intensity. It is showing that the emotional environment controls you instead of you controlling the emotional environment. To train this, start with the first minutes of conversation. Reduce your initial energy. Speak a bit less than you feel like, and avoid responding immediately to any provocation or compliment. In the end, everything converges to a simple method that should be the foundation of any man. The first layer protocol. It works as a value filter. First, speak less than you feel like. Well-placed silence creates density and weight. Second, eliminate justifications. Justifying is a sign of insecurity. Third, maintain a neutral posture before reacting. Do not deliver emotion before measuring the environment. And fourth, use pauses as a tool of authority, not as a signal of hesitation. When you apply these four elements together, you transform presence into silent power. And silent power is what makes a woman adjust her behavior to your rhythm. It is your energy that begins to lead the interaction. That's how the game starts to turn in your favor. The invisible law that makes women cooperate with your desire. When a man asks for something already believing he is at a disadvantage, he enters the interaction defeated before opening his mouth. That feeling of being below, of seeking approval, creates an emotional negotiation climate that her body quickly detects. She feels that you want more than you offer, that you seek to receive before demonstrating value, that your intention was born from neediness, not direction. And when that reading settles in, the disinterest is automatic. Reversing the scenario does not require force, nor speeches, nor theatrical persuasion. It requires only assertive communication that repositions the game within seconds. If when asking for something you transmit naturalness, rhythm, and clarity, she perceives that she's facing a man who knows what he wants, not someone trying to extract something from her. Women do not follow men who ask for permission to exist. Women follow men who walk with direction, even when they say little. This is not romanticization. It is essential evolutionary psychology. The principle of direction shapes the female response long before logic enters the conversation. She is attracted to men who make it clear through posture, gaze, and tone that they have a path, not a speech about purpose, but an internal path. And you do not need to explain this to her. You need to embody it. The application is simple. When expressing your intention, do it directly, without justification, without excessive politeness, and without anxiety. Direction is a silent language, not a motivational lecture. A woman's reaction is not guided by your words. It is guided by your axis. Axis is the way you occupy the emotional space of the interaction, the way you sustain your own energy, the way your body and mind remain aligned even when the conversation shifts tone. A man with axis does not need to raise his voice. He does not need to prove anything. He does not need to over-explain. He exists in a way that the environment adjusts to him. To develop this state, use the internal axis exercise. Block breathing, bodily deceleration. Focus on the center of your chest, not on her face. When your body descends into this state, your presence changes instantly. Research confirms what female intuition senses in fractions of a second. In 2020, the University of Toronto demonstrated that women can identify male emotional instability in less than 0.7 seconds simply by observing posture and bodily rhythm. This means all your argument, all your intention, all your speech will only be considered if your body passes the test first. The practice is objective. Eliminate signs of emotional negotiation. No excessive hand movements. No accelerated speech patterns. No trying to soften tension with automatic laughter. The body communicates value before the mouth tries to explain it. The great secret to making women follow your direction is not indirect command, but implicit command. It is the art of moving the interaction without asking for permission. 3 steps. A short statement that points to the movement. A normalization that presents this movement as natural, and a continuation that advances without questioning whether she approves. If you say, "Come over here for a minute," and simply walk, your energy leads. If you say, "Sit here with me," making space naturally, she feels she's not being pressured, but invited by someone who knows what he's doing. This method works for invitations, dates, even quick interactions. The power lies in the tone, rhythm, and nonverbal. If you want to go deeper and learn advanced seduction techniques based on real psychology, strategies that never appear on the internet and were built for men who want to transform presence into psychological power, then get to know the code of seduction. It's a direct, refined system designed to reprogram your energy, your emotional reading, and the way women respond to your direction. The link is in the description and in the pinned comment. The final trick: how to make her want to give you what you want. The greatest male sabotage happens when a man reveals intention before revealing value. He believes immediate sincerity builds trust when in fact it destroys mystery, reduces impact, and anticipates a vulnerability that has not yet been earned. Showing intention too early communicates urgency, and urgency always signals neediness. A woman does not pull away because of what you want, but because of the way you demonstrate wanting it. The application is precise. Hide the intention without hiding the presence. Do not give away the objective immediately. Let the atmosphere speak first. Intention should emerge as a consequence of your value, not as a request for validation. There is a biological factor that determines how she responds to your request, and few men are aware of it. Female reciprocity is not random. It is selective. Women react more intensely to men who combine perceived value with behavioral scarcity. It is not about being inaccessible, but about not giving yourself fully without being requested. Total availability kills reciprocity. Total unavailability kills connection. The ideal point is strategic availability. You demonstrate presence, but do not give everything. You show interest, but do not dissolve in it. The application is simple. Offer 30% and let her advance the remaining 70%. This space creates attraction and opens a field for cooperation. The trick that completely redefines a game lies in understanding that you do not convince a woman. You make her feel like the idea is hers. The female mind seeks emotional coherence, not logical pressure. When you argue too much, she closes. When you create atmosphere, pause, and intention, she opens. For this, there's the inverted mirror technique. You present a possibility, step back, and allow her to fill the emotional space left by you. This removes weight from your intention and activates in her the feeling of choice. And when she feels she chose, she engages. The application is direct, suggests lightly, insinuates subtly, allow her to confirm. You guide, she adheres. Science reinforces what practice shows every day. In 2018, researchers at the Stanford School of Communication revealed that requests made by individuals with confident posture, pace tone, and behavioral scarcity have 42% more chance of being accepted. This is not seduction. It is perception engineering. Your body tells whether you are a man who can be followed or a man who needs to be supported. Your rhythm tells whether you lead or beg. Your posture determines whether she should open space for you or raise barriers. The practice is to train these three elements before any important interaction. Stand in front of the mirror. Align your spine. Slow down your vocal tempo. Generate pauses. Train the nonverbal so that the verbal does not have to fight alone. Everything converges to a single strategy, the agar door trick, a tool used by elite negotiators and that, when applied to seduction, generates natural and consistent results. The technique works like this. First, you plant the seed of intention. You do not explain. You do not argue. You simply insert the possibility into the air. Then you create a brief distance, allowing her mind to elaborate the proposal without pressure. Next, you return with clarity, firmness, and simplicity. At that moment, she no longer feels she's giving in to a request. She feels she's participating in a choice. This eliminates resistance, creates desire, and transforms cooperation into a natural response. That is the trick. She gives you what you want because she feels she wants it. 2. When you begin applying this mechanism, everything changes. The weight leaves the words and enters the presence. The request stops being an act of need and becomes an inevitable invitation. The dynamic starts to work not because you pressured, but because you positioned yourself. The man who masters this process forces nothing. He creates atmosphere, rhythm, and direction. And the woman responds not because she was convinced, but because she was led. That is how you become the man who gets what he wants. Not by asking like someone who begs, but like someone who understands the invisible game. Always, the man who controls his own value controls the interaction. There is a point every man must reach if he wants to take command of his emotional life. Understanding that posture comes before intention. Women do not respond to what you want. They respond to what you represent. That is why the man who controls his value controls the interaction. When you enter centered, when your energy does not oscillate, when your words are born from a firm inner axis, female behavior changes without you needing to raise your voice or prove anything. You do not ask for respect. You become someone impossible to ignore. The transformation you experience throughout this video is not abstract. It is concrete. You left behind the pattern of anxiety, the pattern of doubt, the pattern of constant validation, and entered the territory of calculated masculine direction. You began to notice that women do not look for perfection, but emotional stability. They do not seek justifications, but presence. They do not follow speeches. They follow rhythm. When you recalibrate your body, your voice, your posture, and your intention, the way they respond stops being chaotic and becomes predictable. The central thesis remains unshakable. The trick to getting what you want is not manipulation. It is emotional control. It is strategic communication. It is rhythm. It is entering any environment carrying a silent authority that makes people, especially women, feel your presence before hearing your words. You do not dominate because you speak too much. You dominate because you transmit consistency. And consistency is rarity. Rarity is value. Value is power. Machiavelli summarized this dynamic with almost cruel precision by stating that men judge more by their eyes than by touch. In other words, what you show weighs more than what you say. The female mind follows this logic even more intensely. She responds to the impact you cause, not the explanation you offer. Your silent behavior reveals far more about your value than any well-constructed argument. A woman feels when you're in control of your own energy, and she feels equally when you're not. The studies you heard throughout this video make it clear that female sensitivity to microtensions is an evolutionary radar. She detects your instability before you notice your own breathing. This means every detail matters. The way you adjust your shoulders, the cadence of your speech, the pause between phrases, the movement of your jaw, the focus of your gaze. Nothing is small, nothing is irrelevant. Every gesture communicates value or neediness. That is why your next step starts now. Apply the fundamental principles today. Firm posture, slowed rhythm, clear direction, and implicit command. Each of these elements build a layer of perception that works silently in your favor. When your behavior aligns with your inner value, you stop being the man who reacts to the environment and become the man who shapes the environment. This is a turning point. If you want to deepen these strategies and learn advanced seduction techniques based on real psychology, neuroscience, and social dynamics, access the code of seduction now. There you will find a complete method to master the psychological game of attraction, understand how women truly make decisions, and develop a presence capable of influencing, leading, and creating desire without apparent effort. The link is in the description and in the pinned comment. This is the next step to becoming the kind of man who not only understands the game, but controls it.